Okay, thank you, Kap. So let's move on to the next team, that is Daniel team.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to talk about the difference between smart grid and the current electricity infrastructure in the United States. And the difference between the two systems is that there's a usage of digital technologies involved in the smart grids, which provide consumers the details about the usage of electricity services at any given time. Furthermore, consumers are allowed to track the distribution of services in their household, making it a lot easier for energy companies to develop more competent approaches when it comes to distributed energy systems. However, the current electricity grid is dated and inefficient. It does not provide any information regarding how energy has been used by consumers, which contributes to higher energy consumption. And here the divergence between the two electricity grids can be seen. Uh, and the next question is, what management, organization, and technology issues should be considered when developing a smart grid? As for the management issues, there must be a proper plan before developing a smart grid. In other words, there should be a consultation with the supervisors of each divisions about the plan and all aspects regarding the project over and over again to make sure that everything goes accordingly. Regarding the organization issues, one of the most important subjects that a company should not overlook is operating costs. And to be more specific, some consumers might find other cheaper method of saving energy with no operating cost. For instance, switch off home appliances when they're not being used, turn down the air conditioners, unplug unused electronics, and so forth. Moving on to the technology issues, a company must consider that this project takes a lot of time and money. The system requires an entirely new energy infrastructure that will replace the current grid. For example, the sensors, switches, monitoring devices, and networks are all necessary for the system to track the energy consumption and report the data to the energy suppliers.
Okay, the next question is what challenge to the development of smart grids. From the article, I think the most challenging of development of smart grids is the price as they are too expensive. This project spends a considerable amount of money on constructing and setting the smart grid system. They also spend a lot of money to train the staff. Therefore, this system is not appropriate for normal citizens who have a low income. Moreover, these systems has a limit at least. Most customers difficultly understand the smart grid systems. They need to take time to understand it. This indicates that this system is still not fair with users. This do not include the list that this system can be hacked. The smart grid infrastructure is in charge of regulating the utilities. If the system is hacked, the privacy of the customers will be violated and will not safe.
What are the areas of our infrastructure could benefit from smart technologies? So there's a one example that I thought about is that I believe there's an area like industrial area, especially like government industry, will get obtain benefit from the smart technologies. The reason I thought is first of all because that I can find like three advantages, and the first is that uh, citizens we can like save citizens taxes because if it's government industrial area, and then if we use those smart technologies to reduce the energy, then it means that we are going to save citizens taxes and then citizens money, and we can use those saved money to fund another like government's program and try to make a better society for citizens to live in. And secondly, the industry area has always been like related to the pollution, and so according to the experts and journals, the world's industrial area emits like 23% of the world's greenhouse gases. So if you're like going to reduce the fuels in industrial areas, and then if also if we just change our fossil fuels, like they use fossil fuels, and if we use the solar power or other natural energy sources, then it will decrease immense amount of carbon dioxide and the other harmful greenhouse gas emissions. Finally, because of saving a huge amount of fuel or money, the industry could possibly lower the price of the products they make. And because of that, they can investigate their money to other businesses, and it can make even more job places. So for the time of COVID-19, where lots of people are getting unemployed, I think this kind of small but big changes can possibly affect the economy, and it would not really recover the whole lot of status, but it can be miracle to just someone like some family or the community. So number five, would you like your home and your community to be part of a smart grid? Why or why not? Uh, we discussed about it, and then we think that we don't really want our home or our community to be part of a smart grid because first of all, there's quite a lot of advantages and it is very great, but however the cost of the smart grid is just i- way too much for Thailand or our community to hold. Is it took like $75 million for USA to fully work on it, but $75 million, I don't think we can pay for it. And so maybe if we have $75 million, maybe we can use that money for other critical social problems. Like right now, COVID is happening and then it's starting again. Maybe we can use those monies to focus on the healthcare system or something. Furthermore, because we believe that our home or the community does not require smart grid, is that because the electricity fee in Thailand is very low, currently very low, one of the lowest electricity fee, and because you can see Thailand's electricity fee like price for one unit is 0.12 US dollar. However, USA, which is also a little bit whole cheaper, but it's already 0.15, and then other bigger European country that would be like twice amount of like Thailand's electricity price. So I don't think we kind of need that smart grid and then invest those big huge amount of money to really work on the lowering the electricity price. Yes, and there's a proverb, I think, because the tail can't wag the dog. It's like we don't think our community is desperate about energy reduction yet. So it is a great idea to innovate program, but we are not really ready for it. And maybe we can just wait few more years to see uh, the progress in the other countries and then if they give really good success about it, and then we can really do that at the next time, but not really right now.
Okay, thank you for Daniel's team นะครับ now let's move on to the fifth team Ratanon's team.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Am I? Okay.
Yes, very clear.
All right. Thank you. So I'm gonna start with the summary. A smart grid is a new technology that gives electricity to households using digital technology that saves energy, reduces costs, increases reliability and transparency, where households would have more information about how much electricity is used and how much energy is consumed. It could reduce energy consumption by 5 to 15%. It would enable utilities to operate with fewer power plants, which will also reduce cost and the pollution. It has the ability to detect sources of power outages, which makes the response to service much faster and more efficient than the current infrastructure.
A lot of technology will be used here, like networks and switches for power management, sensor monitoring devices to track energy consumptions, systems to provide energy suppliers and consumers with data, communication systems, and systems that are linked to programmable appliances to run when energy is at the least cost. Besides, smart grids helped in creation of new jobs of numbers to a staggering amount of 370,000 jobs. There are many companies that have already begun their work on smart grids. Examples are Smart Grid City, Excel Energy, Duke Energy, Florida Power Plant, and Light are some of the companies. An amount of 3.4 billion is amounted for the heightening interest in federal economic recovery for this technology. A free web service called Power Meter has been developed by Google to connect and integrate with households and businesses with smart grid to provide information online. However, there are a number of challenges in order to implement smart grids, and these include technological and financial challenges. There is a requirement for many things such as networks, communication systems, as mentioned above, and this would be costly for the average household. There are other risks involved as well. With the digitalization of grids, a server failure or a cyber attack would compromise the safety and privacy of households. There are advocates who are pledged to reject smart grids in case of boosted rates, and there is also fear that smart grid companies may force consumers to let them control their appliances. So to answer the case study questions, I'm going to begin with the first question. How do smart grids differ from the current electricity infrastructure in the United States? The current infrastructure is inefficient and not modern. Smart grids offer many more features that help in reducing the consumption of energy, pollution, and may cut down costs by the utilization of digital technology. Basically, the information it provides helps consumers and providers to make smart decisions to conserve energy. A smart grid informs the consumers about how they are using their energy. Currently, it is not capable of providing precise information. To elaborate on what precise information means, smart grids are capable of providing information about the consumption caused by a single appliance in the household. This, however, is not possible with the current infrastructure. This would also help consumers curb their electricity consumption, and they can program their high consumption appliances like air conditioners to consume lesser power to cut down costs. For example, in case of heavy load, smart grids may draw power from other households, thereby increasing efficiency. Smart grid also offers way to manage power, like unlike the current grids that provide very few alternate sources. Based on safety, it would not be incorrect to say that it is even safer for a house to be under a smart grid. In case of power outages, the current electricity infrastructure are not able to pinpoint the exact location, but it's the opposite in the case of smart grids. Another difference would be the cost of implementing a smart grid, which is a lot higher compared to the current one. This is because for a household to integrate itself into a smart grid, there are requirements of equipments like I mentioned in the summary. This shows that there is more technology involved in implementing a smart grid.
As for the second question, what management, organization, and technology issues should be considered when developing a smart grid? Let's start with the management one. First off, it's a big company. So we're going to have a lot of people working together. One of them is too many people to handle. Now, when they break into departments and delegate work to people, the organization chart spreads out, which means we have a wider span of control and a longer chain of command. Now, another one is time management. When doing a project, time management is very important. Being on time is one of the most important factors when completing a project. Because if you delay the project, your costs are going to increase. Like you're going to have to pay more for the workers or pay more for the rent where the workers are staying near the project site. Let's come to organization now. Now, the second one, organizational issues could be the management at the low level. Now, people in the low level will only be given work. Their voices will not be heard. Their opinions do not matter. That would demotivate the workers. A lot of complaints would come, which will give the company a bad reputation. Another one is having different types of people working together. When people can't get along with each other, that causes communication problems. When making decisions, you're going to have a lot of disagreements with one another, which could lead from one problem to another. Technology problems. The rate of cyber attacks have been increasing over the years. So that is one thing to consider. If the security gets breached, all the personal information about the customers or the households could be taken and used in a wrong way. All the prototypes that the smart grid company are trying out, new things, etc., could also be taken and used by another company, which like their competitors. Now, there's also always a possibility of having faulty sensors that would affect the control of the equipment. That would increase their cost and be bad for the company.
Hello, check. Okay, now for the third question. What are the challenges that will smart grid face? The first challenge will be the cost. The reason is because to be part of smart grid, there's a considerable amount of investment to be made. The other main concern will be acceptance by the customers as people are reluctant to change. Not all customers will want to accept this change. The point that they have to pay even more money for a smart technology which would help them save energy will confuse them even more. The fact that it comes with estimate costs running as high as 75 billion, the question arises, who would pay for the bills? Are the consumers willing to invest? And what would happen in the case of a cyber attack, as everything will be digitalized and everything could be hacked? So for this to work, the customer should be brainwashed into thinking that this would be beneficial for them in the long run. Now for the question number 4. Smart technologies would not only be applied in the case of electricity, even though once it is set up, it could reduce costs for tons of projects like construction and mining, which could be beneficial for both the parties. The water department could also be really benefited by this smart technology. These companies would also be able to track each household and see each household would require maintenance. This would really help in detecting any water seepage and leaks, which could just run up the bill if turned a blind eye upon. These small leakage would have been undetected and overlooked if not for this smart technology. In addition to this, customers would also be able to see their daily water usage by just a click on their laptop or any other electronic device, which would allow them to adjust their consumption on daily basis and make any decision about consumption reduction easily. We can thus see that this smart grid technology is the future which will help save the world's consumption rates.
Now, would you like your home and your community to be a part of smart grid? Why or why not? First off, being part of a smart grid has its own pros and cons. Pros of being in a smart grid is that you won't have to worry about using the level of consumption of electricity sensors because everything's managed for you. Being part of this will decrease the energy consumption to about 5 to 15%. Utilities will be able to operate with lesser power plants, which would lead to lesser pollution and hence be beneficial for the environment of all of us. The smart grids, as mentioned before, smart grids can also detect sources of power outage faster. This is a big advantage because the response to all these problems will be faster and more efficient. Also, for the community, it's creating 370,000 jobs for people minimum. Now, this will give a chance to people who don't have a job to do something and earn money. But on the other hand, sensors control everything for us, and that's not the best thing. It's not the best idea. It might not be what we want because we will not have control over it. Now, some people will also have privacy concerns as all the personal details are given to the company. This technology might not be user-friendly as some people might not know how to use the latest technology. Cost is really high in the long run as you might have to pay for the services. For example, like round checks by the company or new equipments that have been brought up by the company. Now, everything sounds very smart and luxurious, but it might not be wise to have another form of technology in the house where hackers could take advantage of and get all our personal information. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, we would prefer that our home and a community should not be part of a smart grid. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for Ratanon's team. Then we move on to Thomas' team.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so we just to summarize real quick about the case study. This was obviously about the smart grid and the technology involved to connect devices and digitally report usage statistics to the utility companies as well as the users. It talks about how this can improve efficiency and reduce energy usage in the United States. And then at the end, we also go into talk about maybe how this could be implemented here in Thailand. So the first question, how do smart grids differ from the current electricity infrastructure in the United States? So right now, it doesn't provide that much useful statistics. People have to manually come to your home and read your meter to be able to know how much energy you're using. And then unless you have a smart home nowadays, there's not much more you can get than total energy used. So the smart grid would change that by reporting those statistics to your phone or your tablet. There would be most likely an app that you could go on and look at what kind of usage you're using, how much electricity you're using, how much electricity is going to your air conditioning and like different types of devices you have in your home. What kind of management, organization, technology issues should be considered when developing a smart grid? So we broke it down into the three categories: management. The companies that are installing this, they need to assist the users with how to use the technology as well as train new um, installation technicians to be able to know how to install this new technology. It's going to need to be intuitive and easy to use. Otherwise, people are, there was a section in the article where people said when this first came out, it was clunky and hard to use, so they didn't know how to read these new meters. Organization, so there needs to be standards, and that can probably come from the government. So they need to implement a budget as well to let them know, hey, this is going to cost this much. Is there going to be tax incentives involved? Will there be grants and free money out there, right? Like, for example, right now, I know there's a lot of tax credits for installing solar on your home that you get from the government just for installing solar panels. So what kind of incentives will it be to connecting to the smart grid technology? That kind of goes on the last thing I just said, but also they need to develop new smart meters, new smart wall outlets, everything that's going to report all these usage statistics to the applications and to these utility companies. So what challenge of development of the smart grids do you think is most likely to hamper their development? So we think that it's going to be hard to implement this technology across the entire nation. So for one, they need to create a simple UI. That was a big thing in the article, that there was just the apps that they had developed so far are just clunky and not intuitive and easy to use. Privacy concerns for the users. So giving the energy statistics out, maybe not so much the utility company, but neighbors having access to how much electricity you're using could raise a lot of privacy concerns, especially in places where HOAs are already controlling a lot of things you can do to your own home. It would be kind of annoying to give them another thing to monitor and tell you that you need to turn your air conditioning down when they already tell you you have to cut your grass twice a week. Lack of customer assistance. So we would need to train new technicians, new help desk support people as well to know how to use this infrastructure and how to provide assistance to the end users. And then there's a lot of room for error. This is a new technology, new system. Like there's a lot of things that could go wrong. What kind of dangers are there to electrical workers when they're working on power lines? If a smart grid is a lot of these small devices connected to a bit much larger system, I know that even if a user has solar installed in their own home, but there are workers working on the electrical lines nearby, they lose access to their own solar in their own home, which seems almost like the inverse of what we're trying to achieve by installing these smart grids. What are examples of other infrastructure that could benefit from this? Well, like others, we said the water infrastructure could benefit from it. We could monitor water usage, flow into households, control features such as pool sprinklers that are automated or can be controlled from a smartphone. A lot of these technologies exist already, but maybe implementing them in this smart grid would be beneficial. And then sewage as well. It might be like kind of a weird, uncomfortable topic, but utility companies could gain a lot of benefits from seeing sewage usage as well. So would we like this in our home and our community to be part of the smart grid? Why are we not? Well, money saving is the pretty obvious benefit to it. A lot of grid technology in the United States is getting a lot of heat for being outdated, and especially in California, a lot of old power lines are causing fires. So would upgrading to a smart grid be beneficial there? Probably. And then as well as Thailand. Thailand has almost, I cannot remember the exact number, but I know it's a very low amount of renewable energy comes from like wind and solar. A lot of it mostly comes from fossil fuels. So could Thailand benefit from installing these solar panels, windmills, and then the smart grid inside it? Most likely. But Thailand's also a poor nation compared to most of the Western countries. So most people are probably not going to be able to afford this. And unless the government is willing to pay for it, it most likely will not be installed. So it is, in conclusion, it's a beneficial way to manage electricity, and the benefits are obvious, but humans being humans, I think it's going to hamper the development. We can replace old technology as it becomes completely unusable, but I think that is the best we're going to get for now until it's more cost efficient to have this smart grid instead of the old traditional style of grid. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Okay, now let's move on to the last team, Natchapon.
Okay, so let's just summarize this for the last time. So the ordinary electrical grid that is used in the US cannot provide information on how that energy is being used. This makes it challenging to develop better ways of power distribution and the new ways to handle alternative energy that is environmentally friendly. A smart grid is the technological solution to ordinary grid problems. The smart grid allows the information to be transferred back and forth between the producer and consumers. To implement a smart grid, it requires networks, switches, sensors, and monitoring devices. In short, a smart grid saves energy, increases reliability, reduces energy wastage, which leads to higher energy production and consumption efficiency. Companies like Excel already made a prototype for Smart Grid City project. They plan to spend over billions of dollars into smart grid technology. However, these companies still face challenges to implement it. Difficulties in implementation includes cost, privacy, installation process, and so on. And last but not least, there are a lot of other less expensive alternatives that can be used to reduce the energy consumption. FIFA?
Okay. How do smart grid differ from the current electricity infrastructure in United States? So normal grid does not track how customer use the energy, but smart grid collect data from customer and allow them to see how much energy they are using at any given time, maybe on their iPad, on their phone, on computer. for better management of electricity, and it also detects power outage quicker and more precisely, which means faster restoration service and reduce energy waste.
Okay. For the issues, the first one, the management issues, is it is very essential that a proper planning must be done before the implementation of the smart grids, and all of the aspects should be planned and discussed over and over. Since it is a huge project which involves a lot of investment, and a failure at the planning stage will ruin the whole project. The next one is organization issues. Before we releasing the project, it must be sure that everything is being done legally and take into consideration all government policies. And for the last one, the technology issues. Since the whole project is a technology-based project, the investment cost will be up high, and making all hardware, software, network, and communication in a place will be playing an important role too. And moreover, the maintenance of the smart grids would be a problem for normal users, since the technologies of smart grid is mostly a high-end technology, making the maintenance more harder, and it needs frequent checking.
So what are the challenge to the development of smart grids do we think is most likely to hamper their development? So we think that cost is the major concern here, as it is estimated that the cost of running these smart grids could be as high as $75 billion. And moreover, a smart grid requires a two-way meters, which creates difficulties in installing them everywhere. They might also require to install the new cables or completely reinstall the whole cable management. Additionally, there is the maintenance cost, meaning when implementing the backup battery, this could raise the issue whether storing the energy in the battery for later use to save energy would save cost and really become less expensive than not buying the battery cell itself. There is also the privacy concern because as the smart board has control over home appliances, for instance, the air conditioner, and it could be web-based system. This might allow companies to have control over the home appliances, hence increasing the risk of cyber attack. Next, when we consider the technical terms that may be used in the smart dashboard, it will be another challenging aspect for typical household users to understand. They might not understand all the functionalities, and most importantly, they might not be willing to spend time on training to use it. All in all, there's no guarantee that buying this smart grid will cover its cost in the first place.
Okay, next. What other area of our infrastructure could benefit from smart technologies? We think water departments could benefit from smart technology. If they have systems similar to smart grid, it would allow customer and companies to monitor water usage. Like customer could see how much water they are using on daily basis and decide if they want to use less water and save more money. And smart technology in water department would also help with detecting leaks and other maintenance issues.
Okay, for the last question, according to the information provided on smart grids, for now, we don't think the smart grids is a technology that is a must-have things, since the cost of it is yet very expensive. Additionally, with the technical term used and high-tech implemented within the dashboard, it will be too hard for an ordinary user to use and be able to understand all of its function. Moreover, we are yet to consider the maintenance cost as well as privacy concern to let private companies have control over home appliances. We wish that if the cost of this technology was rescaled to reach the medium class people, and the technology was designed to be a high-end technology but with cost reduced, these smart grids would be more attractive.
Is that all นัชพล
Yes ครับ
Okay. All right. Thank you นะครับ every team for your presentation. I think let me justify talking about this presentation a bit นะครับ every team try to do your best for presentation. That is very good thing that I can see from your contribution for this presentation. But I mean, like, just a bit thing that I just like want to talk about is that it takes a bit too long time in order to do the presentation. We'll do like this on the next module onward, because normally we have like the case study for the module for almost every module. So the things that we'll do is like this. From the next module onward, I will randomly call a couple of the teams to present only, so that we can save the time, because we have like so many content that we have to learn about, like the interaction design. So that means when I assign you for the case study, doesn't matter whether the case study is the in-class discussion when I send you to the breakout room, or it's the case study that I would like you to do it as a homework with your group. I will random couple of you couple of the teams to present only, so that we can save the time. Okay, but for this one, for this case study, I'm like really appreciated that, okay, many of you try to just like ask me that, okay, for how many words do we need to have in the case summary, and to answer the question, also how long do we have to spend in the presentation. That means you are just like concentrate on what I assign. That I am really appreciated to that. So today let's talk about the things that we have to learn a little bit for module number 2. For the slides, I uploaded on our canvas already. So today, let me just like talk about the introduction to module 2 a bit before we end the class. So just won't be long. Okay, so in this module I'll begin with the first part of the system analysis and design that you have to know. This part is to analyze the business case. The business case is not case study. The business case means that the information or the requirements or the current status of the business, that they need some help from you, that we have to develop an information system for them. So in this module, what do we have to talk about? In this module, I'm going to explain to you the concept of business case and how a business case affects an IT project. Also, I will describe the strategic planning process that is really important to the IT team. Also, in order to analyze for the business case, there is a term that you have to understand. In business, for the business student, they have to study for this concept that is SWOT analysis. SWOT, SWOT, SWOT analysis. You also have to learn about this one as well. And you'll be able to describe 4 factors involved in the SWOT analysis that are S, that is strength, W, that is weakness, O is opportunity, and T is threat. We'll talk about in detail. After that, I will talk about the purpose of mission statement, that you have to develop the mission statements when you analyze the business case. Also, you will learn how SDLC, System Development Lifecycle, serve as a framework for the system development. Then you be able to list the reasons for system projects and also the factors that affect those projects. Also, I'll talk about the system requests and the role of system review committee. Group of people, we call them as system review committee. They will have to take role in the system request. Then we will talk about operational, technical, economic, and schedule feasibility. That every project must evaluate this kind of feasibility before we start developing any project or any information system. And finally, in this module you will learn นะครับ the steps and the end product นะครับ of the things that we call it as preliminary investigation นะครับ so this is what we have to know about this module นะครับ so when we talk about this this module นะครับ analyzing business case you have to understand that the term business case นะครับ means the reasons or justification for a proposal นะครับ that means you may have some request นะครับ you get from your users นะครับ and then we have to develop a proposal for them นะครับ the business case means that you have to explain นะครับ what's going on and what is just like the initial reasons why do we need to have a new information systems to serve our users or to serve that organization. When we just like prepare the reasons and justification in the proposal already, the strong business case suggests that company should pursue alternative above other options because it would be in the firm's best interest to do so. Make sure that when the proposal is prepared, there might be more than one choice to do. For example, if alternative A doesn't work, or the committee said that no, I don't think this one will gonna work, we need to have like alternative 2, 3, and 4 as well. Some of the systems, or some of the proposal may have like couple of alternatives, so that the steering committee can have a choice นะครับ to choose. After that, when we would like to develop information system นะครับ information system development typically start with system requests นะครับ followed by preliminary investigation which includes sets of feasibility studies นะครับ so that means in this module we are going to talk about system requests นะครับ you have to know the basic things about the system requests first. What are they, who gonna request, and what kind of requests that you should just like follow นะครับ and then we talk about preliminary investigation that you just like go to observe this kind of the facts that you have to know นะครับ and also feasibility studies to tell us that whether it's worth enough to develop that information system or not นะครับ on the next class I will talk about the details of this module, that is to analyze the business case before we can develop what we call as the preliminary investigation นะครับ and for the feasibility studies นะครับ okay then นะครับ today we don't have any homework นะครับ on this coming Wednesday we are going to talk about this module in detail นะครับ okay then up to this point do you have any questions? All right, if you don't have any questions นะครับ everyone, so now every team submit your work already นะครับ so that should be all for today นะครับ